Radio.
It's time for Wes Strader's Sportsline on ESPN Radio 102.7. Sportsline is a locally produced sports talk show that focuses on high school and WKU, as well as regional athletes who play at the next level. Sportsline was originated by Hall of Fame sportscaster Wes Strader. Now with a new version of Sportsline, here's Garret Browning on ESPN Radio 102.7.
Good afternoon to you sports fans. Welcome to Sportsline.
The man himself, Wes Strader, welcoming in us once again. Thank you for tuning in to 102.7 FM or online at ESPNradio1027.com. Garret Browning here, every week on Monday afternoon starting at 5 o'clock, as long as the Reds aren't kicking us off the airwaves early. Joined, as always, by my buddy Tyler Eaton. We had a really fun show last week. If you missed it, Greg Pogue, a Nashville radio host, was on with us. And, of course, the big news last week was Mike Vrabel's private parts.
A lot of castration chat.
And we got our castration chatting in there, for sure. And
awesome.
We learned that Greg Pogue also was willing to consider castration, but only for Milwaukee Brewers World Series.
He was not very willing to do anything for a Titans championship.
Yeah, he's seen too much in Nashville.
Didn't he say he'd give up a burger? Was that like a burger from McDonald's? That was it?
Not a lot. He
fry.
wouldn't have given up a lot, that's for sure. Thanks for always tuning in with us. You can check out the podcasts online. We got a fun show today, plenty to talk about. Marc Hsu is leaving the WKU basketball program. We've actually got some indirect quotes. They were quotes that Marc Hsu gave out to the public, but not necessarily to me per se. It was through Barstool Western, and we'll give out those quotes later, and I want to hear what the fans have to think of it. Obviously, we'll discuss it, but that's coming up after our first break. Before we get into it, we have to start with local prospect Katie Gardner. She was originally signed to head to UT Martin to play some college softball, but now Katie Gardner missed softball here in the state of Kentucky, led Warren East to the state championship, a runner-up at the state tournament in Lexington. She's going to be headed to WKU officially. She switched it over to the Hilltoppers, and man, it is unreal how loaded this softball roster all of a sudden has got on paper.
And I love how Coach Tudor is doing it in state, because we know, and people around the area know, this state has some really darn good softball. Obviously, state champs Mel ended up second-ranked team.
They actually
in the country,
finished as like
one?
the national champion,
Did they
according to Max
one?
Prep.
Yeah, so I mean, we have one of, if not the best softball team in the state, and their best player is going to be coming to WKU. And now we've got the best player in the state, Katie Gardner. If you've seen her, unquestionably a great signing. And something we talked about all season long last year was how good the pitching staff was, and that was because of one of those signings from in-state. So now you bring in another in-state signing that just won Miss Kentucky softball. I put it on Twitter as soon as the signing came out. I dare you to try to hit off that pitching staff next year.
I can't remember where Kennedy Sullivan played. She was the Kentucky recruit last year that as a freshman was spectacular.
She went to Scott County.
Scott County, yeah. That's Warren East actually played them the year before, and I'm pretty sure knocked out Kennedy Sullivan, which isn't a bad thing by any means considering how good they are, but it is unreal. Kelsey Ike, Kennedy Sullivan, Shelby Nunn, who really didn't get as many opportunities to pitch last season, even though the year before she was in argument for freshman of the year in Conference USA. Then Kennedy Sullivan steps in. She's magnificent. Now you're going to add two more pitchers. The male, I can't remember who the male girl was that signed, but the male lady that signed for the WKU softball team, she threw a perfect game in the state tournament. And I'm not talking a 4-inning, 5-inning perfect game. She threw a complete game, perfect game in the state tournament, and then pitched in the state championship game against Warren East and held her own strong. And, of course, Katie Gardner's missed softball. She led the state in strikeouts. WKU softball, if they aren't the preseason favorite for Conference USA, I mean, how shocked are you going to be?
Very. I mean, we kind of talked about it. A good comparison is going to be WKU basketball this upcoming season. They just have so much talent. Now, whether or not they can piece it all together, figure out, okay, who's going to be our number one starter, number two, number three, that's going to be really tough to figure out with the amount of talent they have. And just to put into perspective how talented these girls are coming out of the state of Kentucky, the best player in the state a year ago, Montana Fouts, as a freshman, went to Alabama and was starting as a freshman and winning SEC Player of the Week. Not just Freshman of the Week, Player of the Week.
And I mixed it up. Kennedy Sullivan was actually the girl that knocked Warren East out of the tournament. Montana Fouts was the one they beat on the way to Kennedy Sullivan last year, which, it's just unreal. You'd think that, when you're competing for the top talent in the state, of course, being Western, you're going to have to go against Louisville. You're going to have to go against Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky is a top 25 program.
Yes.
They've been to like 10 straight regionals, or I don't know, like 4 straight super regionals. One of the two, I saw their banners out at the state championship game. And I think it says a lot about what Coach Tudor is building at Western. It's, look, you can come here in the Conference USA. We play good talent. We played Kentucky. And this team has made a NCAA tournament run before. Excuse me. We covered it here on ESPN Radio. I think they're about due to try and make another one.
I mean, if they're not going to do it this year, I don't know when it's going to happen. It could be the year after. They've got so much talent that they continue to work
so
in
young,
state.
Too.
Right, absolutely. You've got this incoming class. Last year's class we looked at and said, this is amazing. Now we're looking at this year's class and saying, oh, my goodness, this might be
it got
even better. Right. And the best thing for WKU is that the pipeline here in Bowling Green is fantastic because Bowling Green puts out state contenders every single year, whether it be back when Greenwood was competing every year. Now it's Warren East going up there competing every year.
South Warren's kind of gotten the short end of the stick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one team, if not 2 or 3 out of the 14th district competes for a state championship every single year. You look at least one team coming out of Bowling Green and say, you know what, this could be a state championship team. So it's a huge plus to have that, but Coach Tudor has also done a fantastic job of recruiting the rest of the state, whether it be Scott County, Male, and picking up the best players possible. Because like you said, it's tough. Kentucky has a really, really good softball program. Maybe because of that, they're overlooking those in-state players, and Coach Tudor sweeping right in and picking them up. You talked about Katie Gardner. It wasn't a case of her going to a Kentucky or Louisville. She was committed to go to a much smaller school, not even in state. And now here she is recommitting. I think it's something we all hoped for. I don't think it's something that we were all like, you have to do this, you have to do this. But I think now that we've heard it, we're like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. And I think we were all really, really happy to hear the news. And I'm sure she's really happy to let it out.
And I heard it so many times getting to call Warren East games throughout the season. I'd be sitting up in the press box and somebody from the other team would be, man, where is she signed? And I would say
Tennessee Martin.
I would say UT Martin, and I'd get a look like, are you serious? She's going to UT Martin? And it was never an insult towards Katie. It was a complete compliment. It was, that girl's going to tear up Atlantic Sun or OVC, whatever UT Martin's. I forgot. I think they're OVC still. But, she deserves the opportunity to play with not just a low major, but at the very least a mid-major squad. And you can make the argument that Western Kentucky's trying to climb out of that just pure mid-major ranks and kind of like we see in basketball, be one of those squads that, you're not in a Power 5 conference, but you can recruit well. You play good in-state talent enough that it gives you a good top 25 record. I think at one point they broke the top 25 this season. So, WKU softball, they're kind of a sleeping giant. If the fan base is really good here in the area, we talked about it a lot with Region 4 softball, and a lot of those high school parents like to come watch WKU athletes, especially when you're picking up, in-region, in-state kids as well.
And look how Coach Hudson built up the volleyball program.
That's a great point.
You could tell all of a sudden all of the great in-state players were coming. Then you can expand it out of state. You don't start out of state, then come in. You start in-state. Then once people take notice of that, then you can kind of expand, reach out to Ohio, Tennessee, the surrounding areas. Then if you want to go nationwide with like Coach Hudson is able to do now, then obviously that's a fantastic step. But the first step is being taken right now by Coach Tudor and WKU softball.
That's a really good point.
I can't wait to see the results.
That's man, if Coach Hudson's giving Coach Tudor's any tips at all,
you're going to go
it's working out.
Tips, it's him.
Yeah, it is. Coach Hudson, I think he was busy with USA volleyball this summer. I saw a couple of those tweets.
Good coach. He's doing pretty well.
I don't think he was their head coach, but just getting invited to his staff
just
like
to be there,
that.
Just to think about the fact that he's the head volleyball coach at Western Kentucky University, and he's being asked to go help coach Team USA.
What's crazy is that's kind of 2 coaches in big sports recently that have gotten to done that. Michelle Clark-Hurd did that with the USA women's basketball team for a while, and there's no doubt that helps recruiting. That helps
100%.
build the brand.
That Cincinnati team is going to be they were already exceeding expectations last year I could go on and on about how good they're going to be, how good the volleyball program is going to continue to be.
Off tangent. I could not believe how bad Cincinnati women's basketball was before Michelle Clark-Heard got there.
Yeah, that's why we were so shocked.
I was
about
reading their
move.
stats. I was like, really? Like they're
100%.
They hadn't made the tournament in like 8
that.
years or something.
We all thought she was going to hold out for the Louisville job. And then all of a sudden she goes to Cincinnati and it's like, wait, not only are you in the same conference as UConn, but they stink. And I guess
Didn't she almost beat you? She was like one of the teams that played UConn the closest,
yes.
I think, in conference, something like that.
It wouldn't. I wouldn't put it beyond her.
Closest is a weird compliment because it was probably only 15.
Or 20,
yeah.
But I wouldn't put it beyond her within the next 3 years to beat them.
We've got big WKU basketball news with the men's basketball program. Marc Hsu, assistant coach, he's leaving for an opportunity with Depaul University. He is from up in that area, I believe closer to the St. John's area. I have no idea where Depaul is in relation to St. John's. It's got to be pretty close. They're all up there in New York.
They were in the same conference, so they've got to be somehow close.
Call in and tell me where Depaul is located if you know.
That's the question of the day.
270-782-1945. But seriously, the phone lines are open. When we come back, we're going to give you a couple of quotes from Coach Hsu that were actually weeks ago. It was a direct message sent between Coach Hsu and Barstool Western Kentucky, the Twitter account. If you don't know what I'm talking about, be lucky. You're not on Twitter enough. But Barstool Western, they've become a big hotbed on social media for Hilltopper Athletics. And Coach Hsu and one of the members of the WKU Barstool account were DMing back and forth, and he had some very interesting quotations that I'll read off here on air, and you can call in and give your opinion. 270-782-1945 when we come back here on the Sportsline, ESPN.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
Every time I drive, I see so many billboards for lawyers and law firms, and many don't even have a name, just a big phone number. And then in tiny words on the very bottom, they have the firm's name. And I always wondered, is their name small because they're a small firm? I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. When you're injured, you're usually fighting against the other side's insurance company, Geico, Allstate, State Farm. These are big companies that want to pay you as little as possible. But our army of over 400 lawyers and 2,000 case staff, the largest personal injury law firm in the world, has a history and track record of going up against them and winning. When you're injured, size does matter. And you can now reach us by dialing Pound Law on your cell phone. That's pound 529. Pound Law, that's all. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Offices Bowling Green.
John Deere zero-turn mowers, gators, and lawn tractors from Wright Implement are designed to cut your chores down and save you a lot of money in the process. That's why more families from all across the county are coming to Wright Implement. And right now, you can get 0% for 36 months on the incredible Z700 zero-turn mowers at your local Wright Implement store. Offer ends 7/31/2019. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Since 1936, Wright Implement. Online at wrightimp.com.
Health starts at home. That's why Northern Kentucky University offers degrees for high-demand health fields for this region, like nursing, radiology, and health communication. NKU transforms how tomorrow's healthcare professionals train with state-of-the-art technology in an ever-evolving learning center. Whether you serve your community or serve the world, the choice to follow that passion starts at home. Find out how NKU changes healthcare at nku.com/health. Northern Kentucky University. Burn bright.
Man, I've been going through it, been keeping it too real.
Welcome back to the Sportsline here on ESPN Radio 102.7 FM and ESPN Radio 1027.com. Special thanks to Josh during the break who called in and correctly identified that Depaul is in Chicago.
We were not even close.
My geography B skills are not up to par.
Well, and then we guessed two other schools that you might have been thinking of, and those were wrong.
Yeah, on the phone, I tried to get him to answer more questions for me because obviously that's what I need. I thought Drexel was located in New York, and then you found out, what was it?
It's in Philly, and then I thought Duquesne might be our option, and they're in Pittsburgh. So if it comes to finding
clearly we do not watch enough Northeast basketball.
Right, and then my question became, if they're in Chicago, why were they in the Big East? But then I thought of Marquette, who for some reason they were thrown in the Big East too, and they're in, I think, Wisconsin is where they are. I don't want to guess states anymore.
Our guy
We're
Charles
obviously
Lewis
about
also texted in that it was
Charles
Chicago.
knows everything.
Yeah. I shouldn't have even told people to call in because we knew he was going to hook me up immediately. Well, we'll get right into it. I teased it up before the break. Marc Hsu, he is leaving for Depaul University in Chicago. You're welcome. I got that one right. And I actually got these direct message photos a couple of weeks ago. Let's see if there's a date on here. No, there's no date attached with these pictures. I'll just give a couple of contacts right now. He talked about how he wanted to speak with St. John's and that he should have told Coach Stansbury, and Coach Stansbury wasn't happy about him not telling him that he was meeting with St. John's. And Coach Hsu went on to say that really the only time you're supposed to tell the head coach is when it's something serious, or you'll be telling him every week, hey, I got another job offer. Especially
with as successful as he's been.
But some of the interesting quotes that he goes on to say later that I really think the fans would be interested to hear. This is from Marc Hsu. He sent these direct messages to Barstool Western's Twitter account. Quote, I begged him to keep Trev Queen. He wanted to roll the dice with his kids. We are in the NCAA last season. If we kept him, 100%.
Can't deny that.
He completely stopped playing Delano the second half of the season when he started and played 35-plus minutes in arguably our 3 best wins of the season. That was the mind-boggling thing I've ever experienced in my 10-plus years in college.
I can't say any of that's wrong, honestly.
And, I don't disagree either. Now, you can have a totally different conversation about how professional it is as an assistant coach to direct message Barstool Western
That's my
your complaints about a head coach.
Did he bring this up to Stansbury? That becomes my question.
Oh, well, these are obviously conversations that Marc Hsu had with Stansbury before he left. I highly doubt.
But does it happen like at the moment? Is what I start to question, because the way that he's putting it, he almost puts it in a way that sounds as though he kept it to himself. He doesn't ever say, I told Stansbury, hey, we should give Delano more minutes, and maybe he suggested that. But if those conversations aren't taking place, then why say it now?
And I'm interested what really happened with Trevlin Queen. We never really understood why he never made it to campus or why he was never on the team. And there were a lot of rumors that he probably would have been the biggest key to this team this year.
I mean he was on an NCAA tournament team.
Was it New Mexico or New Mexico State?
New Mexico State. And they almost beat Auburn in the first round.
Oh, man, I forgot that was Auburn, too.
Yeah.
Of course, they went on to the Final Four, so that's not a bad team to lose to in the first round.
Did airball. It was either the game tying or game winning.
It was the game winning.
But that was after he had put up like 20-plus.
Yeah.
Could have used a guy like that.
Definitely could have used a guy like that. I just think it's
weird.
Such a weird story.
That's the only way to describe it. It's not. I don't know if it's surprising. It is a little bit, but at the same time, it's not. If that makes sense.
270-782-1945 if you'd like to hop in on the conversation. Basically, it just seems like there was a lot of frustration in-house this past season because things obviously did not go the way everybody planned, but with the talent you have around him, I mean, is there any way you can call last season a success? What do you think?
Oh, no, we went over this. It was very disappointing. And at the end of the day, with all, like you said, with all the talent, all the frustration because they couldn't get the job done with that amount of talent, I'm not surprised that this is coming back. That's why I say I'm not particularly surprised by his comments. But the fashion in which it's coming out, it just doesn't make that much sense to me.
Well, and here's the thing. If this was text messages between him and somebody else, I would never take those quotes and put them on air.
Right.
But you're messaging somebody over social media that's not even an individual person.
Right.
It's a company.
And it's different when
it's a media company.
It's different when it's Barstool. To me, that just feels different.
It's like he wanted these quotes to be out there, which is okay with me.
Which makes me question, did these conversations take place in a locker room between you and Coach Stansbury? Because that's the best way to resolve it. So to me, the number one thing that pops out, these things were not resolved. It doesn't feel like there was ever a resolution that took place between those two. That's what it sounds like to me. Because if there's a resolution that takes place, they come to some sort of agreement like, hey, you know what? This was my fault, or no, I need to step back on this issue. This doesn't come out. And ultimately, he probably doesn't leave.
And what's kind of interesting in these direct message also, and these were from weeks ago. I honestly need to check and see when they were sent to me again. But these were from weeks ago, and one of the interesting quotes that he starts with, he talks about, St. John's contacted him. He didn't tell Coach Stansberry that St. John's contacted him because, well, if you tell every job offer you get, you're going to be bugging the head coach probably the entire season.
And that could be a contract thing that we don't know. Is he contractually obligated if he's contact to tell the head coach?
That's a good point.
We don't know that. If he's not, then he's in the right. You don't have to.
Quote, St. John's is down the block from where I was born and raised. Of course, he didn't end up at St. John's. There were a lot of rumors that he was going to end up at St. John's a couple of weeks ago.
Which would have made a lot more sense.
I can walk to my parents' house from campus, so obviously I was going to listen to what they have to say, which isn't any different than Rick entertaining a job in the SEC, which he is dying to get back to.
See, this
end quote.
That's where I think
that's a little low blow.
That's where I think it loses credibility, and that's why I think he sent it to Barstool. That's when, to me, it feels different that it's to Barstool. If this is coming out from the Herald or maybe the Daily News, he doesn't send that to one of those. But because it's Barstool and because he throws that in there, this seems like more so frustration than anything else. And now that he's gone, he can say all this, and there are no ramifications.
That's completely true.
And that's why I feel like no resolution ever took place. Because like I said, if this is resolved, this doesn't come out, he probably doesn't leave. And if he does leave, then it feels like there's a mutual agreement on both sides that this is going to happen. You see more of a kind of good luck, coach. You've been great here. Do great in your next venture. It doesn't feel like there's been much of that. There hasn't been much of a congratulation. And it doesn't really feel like he's taking that much of a step up going to Depaul. If he goes to St. John's, that's different because St. John's is a higher level program, given it hasn't been great over the past few years. He gets to work
with Chris Mullen.
But yeah,
Isn't he still there?
And he's, in his hometown and whatnot. That feels like a step up. It's just all confusing. Like I said, it's just weird. And that last comment, just backhanded, it makes it feel almost like an upset teenager sending that message. It doesn't sound like something that he would say. And that's the part that confuses me.
Well, what's funny is those are like the first messages he had sent. And then later on were the messages about Trev Queen and Delano Banton. And it seems like those are legitimate
Right,
quirks.
You can't argue with those.
Those are legitimate arguments that it's like, okay, well, I could see where that would be a problem. But then when you started off with the whole, he's trying to go back to the SEC. Why can't I do all this? It just makes you look like that kid that didn't get what he wants. So now you got to kind of pout things off. And I love Coach Hsu. He was very good around here. He was great with media. I mean, he even direct messaged me a couple of times about coming on the show, which I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
Right. It reminds me a lot, not to this level, but I can't remember the guy's name that was on Urban Meyer's staff, and then he got fired, and then he comes out with all these allegations about I don't know if
I know exactly who you're talking
sleeping with
about.
somebody else and his wife knows and she's okay with it. It's obviously not to that level, but that's what it feels like. And it's the fashion in which he did it that irks me. It just irks me.
Can this be a problem heading into next season? Or are we is this kind of looking back on last season and saying, okay, we're kind of figuring out what the issues were? Or is this something that can maybe carry over year to year? Because we have seen a lot of assistant coach turnover, but that's something you see all across the country. You can't necessarily
100%.
Put that on a head coach.
It just depends on who the players came to play for. Did they come there for Coach Stansberry, or were they there for the guy that probably, to his credit, did a lot of the recruiting? So we talked about Jordan Ross. He was one of his recruits, not Stansberry's. Does he stay? Does he finish it out?
Trevlin Queen was a big Marc Hsu guy.
Left. Does Stansberry rally the troops and say, look, these rumors, first of all, he's going to have to debunk all that. He's going to say, look, I'm committed to being here just as you guys should be committed to me and being here and representing this university. Who are they there for? Are they there for him? Are they there for Coach Stansberry? Or are they there to play basketball at Western Kentucky University? It could rally the team. It could very well light a fire under this team. Last year, there wasn't really anything to light a fire under the team. It was a very quiet offseason, which is generally good. Then we got to the season when we got guys getting arrested and just debacles happening. We've got a grad transfer coming in that we think is the future in terms of leadership, and he's gone after 5 games. So this could rally the team and prevent stuff like that from happening, because this is a team now that looks like it has dysfunction heading into the regular season, that could be debunked. They could rally and come out really, really strong. Or like you said, it could get to them and it could cause problems not just this year, but going into the future. It's a really toxic situation that doesn't have to be there, but now it's there, and something is going to have to be done to address it. I don't know if it's to the point where a press conference maybe takes place or maybe just a statement is released by Coach Stansberry saying, look, these statements are partially true, completely false. I don't know, but I feel like it has to be addressed now.
So if I leave the microphone on, we'll wait and see what Coach Stansberry and the WKU basketball team waits to do on the situation. Of course, Coach Hsu is gone, so it really doesn't affect anything anymore that you can see as far as a fan goes.
And I don't think if I'm
it's
a
just
player,
those questions behind the scenes that we don't really know about.
And if I'm a player, I'm not saying, oh, he's gone, I'm going to Chicago to play basketball at a lower level Big East school. I don't think that I'm that tempted to go and leave.
Yeah.
Now, if he's gone, do I think maybe after a year, if it doesn't work out how I thought it was going to, do I maybe leave because he's not there? Possibly. But it's a really good opportunity for Coach Stansberry to rally the troops around what he wants them to do. And obviously, he just wants them to win games, I would think.
Well, we'll move on from the off-season drama because it's basically all gone. We're just bringing up some of the past because that's what we love to do here in the media.
And it would be different.
I love stirring that pot.
It's so weird that happened. That's the best way to describe it, honestly. It's just weird. It feels out of place.
And it's a story we really have to bring to the attention of everybody else. You know, look, if you want to get your words out there and you want to tell media members how you feel and you put it on, writing especially.
Right. And you send it to Barstool.
You got to expect those quotes to be used.
It's just different that it's Barstool, That's just how I feel.
Yeah,
I might be in the minority about that, but because it's Barstool.
Coach Hsu must fit in with that squad, I guess.
And he seems like he does. He seems like he seems like a dude. He seems like a guy you look at and you're like, you know what? This dude could work for Barstool.
Saturdays, Thursdays, game days are for the boys, basically.
Right, 100%. And that's why he's such a good recruiter. He's just one of the guys, but I don't know. It just feels weird.
We'll put this behind us. We'll talk WKU basketball preview, look at some of the players. Let's take a break before we get into it. Still, the phone lines are open, 270-782-1945. I'll go through it again, 782-1945 if you want to join the conversation. Hilltopper basketball next, ESPN.
Luxury Imports of Bowling Green is Southern Kentucky's home for the all-new BMW 3 Series. Unmistakable design meets German precision and cutting-edge technology, leaving all competition behind. Or find exceptional savings on all 2015, 2016, and 2017 certified pre-owned BMWs with 1.99% APR for 48 months, or with lowered leases on select 2019 Mercedes C-Class, E-Class, and G-Class models. Luxury Imports of Bowling Green, 325 Three Springs Road.
Are you looking for fun, local, affordable entertainment for the whole family? The Bowling Green Hot Rods have you covered this spring and summer with the all-new Family Pass. Get up to 6 tickets for family and friends to all Sunday through Thursday games, including 3 fireworks days during the 2019 season. Call the Hot Rods and get your personalized membership card with the Hot Rods Family Pass today at 901-2121. Bowling Green Hot Rods Baseball. Fantastic.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Here's what no recovery, no fee means at our firm. First, your initial consultation is absolutely free. Next, we understand that most people don't have the money to pay hourly attorney's fees, so you only pay us a percentage of your recovery if we win. Finally, there are expenses in working a case up. We advance these costs as well. If we make no recovery, you don't owe these either. Visit forthepeople.com for more information. Offices Bowling Green.
At Trent Bedding, our sizzling summer sale is going on now, and our deals are
hot, hot, hot!
Like these hot deals on all of our cooling pillows.
Hot, hot, hot! Oh, oh.
Or these hot deals on all of our mattresses.
Hot, hot, hot!
And right now, you can get this queen mattress and adjustable base for the sizzling hot deal of just $9.99.
The sizzling summer sale at Trent Bedding is fire! And remember,
it's my personal guarantee. If I won't have it in my house, I won't deliver it to yours.
My deleted tweet, Charles Bassey will be the second highest drafted Hilltopper ever, but after 2 or 3 more years, because Delano Banton is going higher. No. You can't really hear Tyler's no because it's too soft.
And with the number 1 pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the New York Knicks select Delano Banton, guard, out of Nebraska University.
Still possible.
Just imagine.
It's still possible. That was one of the things in those quotes that I was pretty interested in. If you missed what we were talking about the first half, we had some quotes from former assistant coach Marc Hsu, now with Depaul, who had an exchange between him and Western Barstool. They were nice enough to give me those screenshots. Appreciate it, guys. I guess I'm making one friend out there at a time, losing a couple others. But one of the quotes he talked about was Delano Banton losing minutes the second half of the season after he played minutes in some of their biggest wins, Arkansas, Wisconsin, and then we got into conference play, and you really never saw him. I mean, you saw him a couple of times, but not nearly to the same extent. He's gone. He's to Nebraska now. A couple of new transfers will step in. Cameron Justice, formerly of Ooey Pooey, before that at Knox County Central here in Kentucky. I think he originally committed to Vanderbilt. And ended up at
IUPUI is not pronounced Ooey Pooey.
Oh, it's Ooey Pooey all day. If you've never pronounced IUPUI, Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, if you've never pronounced it as
I like
Ooey
how
Pooey.
quickly that rolls off your tongue.
Oh, I've known it for a long time.
Was this like your throwback NCAA 10 team to run a dynasty with or
They
something?
used to come play in Diddle every now and then.
I know they played a lot.
And I remember that ugly Jaguar. They have like an ugly
terrible.
Jaguar mascot. Like
Their colors are awful. The mascot.
South Alabama used to have an ugly Jaguar, but at least like their colors.
Do they still not have the ugly Jaguar?
I think they upgraded it.
Darn it! I love that. I loved theirs.
But their colors kind of flow with the Jaguar a little more.
Their colors are a lot better. IUPUI's colors are awful.
They look like they tried to make actual Jaguar colors, and instead it's just really like dark tan.
It's
ugly.
like if we were the Hilltoppers and our colors were like green grass and brown dirt and some gray rocks thrown in there. It'd be terrible. Terrible.
You just described my ultimate team makeup. No,
I hope not.
WKU
That's
basketball,
awful.
looking forward to the coming year. They've had all their camps. My manager buddies, they've been busy. They've been staying till like 8 o'clock at night. So they better be working hard. Coach Stansbury and company with some new faces. Who do you think is the new face that Hilltopper fans are going to have to learn their name very quickly because they're going to make a difference all season?
Jordan Ross. For one simple reason, and I don't actually know if this is a legitimate reason, but because I saw a video of him on WKU's Twitter of him throwing a lob to Charles Bassey.
That's all you need.
If you are a point guard and you can throw the ball to Charles Bassey, you are instantly the second most valuable player on this team besides Charles Bassey.
You know, that was one thing last year that I kind of was disappointed in. Lamonte Bearden was a great point guard, but I always felt like him and Charles Bassey, like, I should see one alley-oop connection a game off a pick and roll or something. Just Lamonte going to the rim, and he's just like, here, I'm just going to lob it up there, Charles.
They didn't throw him the ball at all. It was depressing.
That's a good point.
Quite honest. They didn't throw him the ball at all. And that's the reason that he had to not go to the NBA draft. And it's the same reason why he probably had to really, really consider going to the NBA draft. Because his numbers were not what they should have been, not to any fault of his own. But the question going through his mind is, okay, my stock has already fallen because I never got the ball. If I come back, do I have another season where I never get the ball and then I go undrafted? Or do I get the ball and then maybe improve my stock to late first, mid-first rounder at best?
And the one thing that may hurt him as far as aside from his basketball skills is he's right in that area of a tweener. Like 15 years ago, he's a makeshift power forward.
Oh, it'd be a lottery pick.
He would be
easily
perfect for the power forward position. But now you got all these Kristaps, Porzingis.
Oh, he's a center now. He can't play power forward in the NBA.
Yeah, he's not laterally quick enough. I mean, who knows? He could prove us wrong. Of course, he had the brace on for almost all of last season last year on his knee, so maybe that prevented some of his mobility. But he's definitely in that area of a tweener. I see him as like if Golden State always played small ball, I feel like he could be the perfect five. Draymond at the 4, and then like, you know, Klay Thompson, D'Angelo Russell, and Steph Curry. Now, granted, that's like the perfect position for him to walk into. But if, you know, the Atlanta Hawks, they're kind of building that new style squad. They're coming along with Trae Young and company. He could find a spot as a tweener, center, power forward. But, I mean, you're right. This sophomore year, it could make or bust his draft stock. I mean, if he has the same season he had as a freshman, you could argue that, look, that's that guy's ceiling.
Right, and his best case potential, we're talking about NBA players, think Al Horford and the impact that he has shooting the three ball. He's got a little bit of a three ball. He can shoot the mid-range consistently.
You're just a Sixers
really
fan.
Good. Well, even on the Celtics, he was fantastic. He was the most valuable player on the Celtics while he was there. He's the most valuable player when he was on the Hawks, and he could very well end up being the most valuable player on the Sixers this coming season just because he is the consummate glue guy, but he can do it at the 5. He can do it at the 4. He can defend not all positions, but he can defend the paint with range. And that's what Charles Bassey can do. He can't go out there and guard a small forward or shooting guard, but he can range around in the paint. If he needs to come off of his man and contest a shot across the paint, he is big enough, he is long enough, and he is agile enough to be able to do that. That's his ceiling, I think, is an Al Horford type impact. And if he can do that this year for WKU, if he's allowed to, more scoring than Al Horford. Obviously, he's not a primary scorer. But if Charles can go out there, defend like he did last year, maybe add a bit more of playmaking out of the post. He really doesn't pass much out of the post because he doesn't really get the ball that much in the post. But if we can run the offense through him, not just occasionally go to him as a last resort, but run the offense through Charles in the post. I know it's a kind of a throwback of a game, and these players around him probably aren't going to be used to something like that. But in more games than not, that's going to be your best chance to win because people can't guard him. He is impossible to guard at this level. There's nobody like him. Last year, he averaged 15 points a game and nearly won the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award for best center. That's how talented he is.
15 points a game on probably like 8 shots,
imagine he
10
shoots
shots.
12 or 13 shots a game. Imagine how many more times he gets to the line the more that we get him the ball. He's a good free throw shooter.
Yeah, he's a decent free throw shooter.
So the potential is limitless with him, and that's why I like Rawls so much. It feels like to me he is that natural point guard that we've been lacking.
Of the 3 big returners on this team, Josh Anderson, Tavion Hollingsworth, and Charles Bassey, which one of them do you think needs to take the biggest step up this season if the Hilltoppers want to be successful?
Josh, 100%. I had such high expectations for Josh Anderson last year, and at times it was there, and other times he completely disappeared. He is the perfect, we're talking about small ball in the NBA, the perfect small ball 4. He has great size, fantastic athleticism at 6'7", got a little bit of a jump shot. If he gets to maybe a 35% three-point shooter, gets a bit more aggressive with the ball in his hands, gets more aggressive on the fast break, and continues to grow as a defender, he's the perfect small ball 4. Then you can run a lineup with Rawls, Tavion, Savage. You can throw Justice in there. This team is so loaded in the backcourt. Jackson Harlan, a lights-out shooter, with him and Bassey in the front court, but really you're running 4 guards and a forward. That is the best way to surround Charles Bassey.
You know, some of the reports I've heard from inside training camp, I got a couple of inside sources, Tyler. You're lucky to know me, buddy.
You're right, 100%. Insiders.
A couple of things I've heard is Cameron Justice has been one of the biggest winners of offseason so far. Which I'll go ahead and apologize. If Cameron turns out to be just a starter for Western, that's honestly going to exceed my expectations. Granted, I'm a little biased because I watched my Purples beat him in the state tournament.
He is knocked down. He can shoot. First of all, this team needs shooters. You wouldn't think they do, but they do.
Before I let you get into it, this is another shocker from the inside source. He said Josh Anderson off the bench, Cameron Justice in the starting lineup.
I wouldn't doubt it. The problem for me there becomes, who are you starting at the 4? Is it Tolu Smith? Is it one of the freshmen? Of course, Anjanda's gone now, so he's not an option.
I think the NKU transfer, Carson Williams.
See, that works because he's another one of those kind of small ball 4 guys.
He's really almost like what we thought. I don't even remember the guy's name that came from Auburn last season that just left after like 5 games.
I don't want to mention his name.
What's his name?
He doesn't deserve
I totally
his name
forgot his
mentioned.
name. No, you got to say it. I really don't.
One. I refuse. He ruined our team 5 games into the season.
Well, I'm glad I don't remember it because obviously
Deshaun Murray.
Thank you. He was not very important to last season.
He's like the Voldemort to me of Western Kentucky basketball.
I feel like that's what Carson Williams could be for this team. What we thought Deshaun Murray was going to be, that undersized 4 that could rebound with the best of them. I think Carson Williams has a better outside shot than Deshaun Murray. That wasn't necessarily his offensive game.
He's not as good of a rebounder, not as good of a defender, but he's a really good shooter. I like his fit by Bassey, too. I think best case, Josh Anderson develops that jump shot a little bit, then you can start him at the 4. But at the beginning of the season, 100% I could see Carson Williams starting there. He's got the experience edge. You know what you're getting with him, and he's a great fit alongside Charles.
I got another last tough question for you. Charles Bassey, he's obviously going to be the starting big man. Who is the next most important big guy on this team? Is it Isaiah Cozart, the freshman out of Kentucky? I think he broke the block record in a career in the state of Kentucky. Or is it Tolu Smith in year 2 who, man, he showed flashes, but he still had a lot to learn. Who do you think is more important behind Bassey this season?
Let me throw another one at you.
All right.
Merrick Nelson. I love Merrick's game. I love how he plays. He defends. He was one of the only players on last year's team that every single defensive possession, he was there. And it's because really he's not a primary guy offensively, but he's one of those guys. He can crash the boards. He can get you some putbacks. And he's one of those momentum players. Everything he does, it feels like it gives you momentum. Everything he does feels like one of those momentum swinging plays, whether it be a big putback, whether it be a big chase down block.
What I always think of when I hear of guys like that, one is Derek Gordon, who left after his freshman year, but he was just, he wasn't the greatest skilled player, but man, he just was going to put all the effort forward, and he was going to try and grab 12 rebounds a game as a guard. And the other guy I think of is another Ray Harper guy. That would be Okaro Akamene.
Yes.
Akamene,
100%.
he was, bless his heart, he was so bad at first. He didn't look like he had a place on this team. And then when Ray Harper went on his tournament runs, there was always that Okaro Akamene play in one of those games, a steal and a dunk, a block on the defensive end. And that's exactly what Merrick Nelson could bring. You're right.
And he's got so much raw potential, just like you mentioned. Merrick can jump out of the building. He's not a Josh Anderson leaper, but he's right there. He tried multiple times.
He might be better, honestly.
I'm telling you, he tried.
I'd like to see the verts on those.
He is longer, so he can get up higher, I guess, technically. Multiple times last year, he tried to dunk on some dudes, and he's one of those guys you don't want to meet at the rim defensively. He still has room to grow defensively. The effort is there. There's still some technical stuff he needs to work on. Offensively, the same thing. He's tried to develop a shot from outside, and if he gets that down, he can be inside and out. He can just sit there, tee off from the corner if he's open. Another perfect fit besides Charles. Everything this season, I don't know if this is how it's going to be, but what it needs to be is building a team around Charles Bassey that lets him excel, and it allows everybody else to fit in perfectly alongside him. And at the same time, it's going to work perfectly. If you get the ball to Charles Bassey, he's going to score, he's going to get double teamed, it's going to create opportunities for everybody around him. Defensively, put him in the paint, you can defend the perimeter. If the guy gets past, there's Charles Bassey waiting for him. Everything needs to be about Charles Bassey. He's your most talented player. He's one of a kind. There is no other Charles Bassey in the country, nonetheless in Conference USA.
If you play 2K, make him your first scoring option. That's what you're telling me.
100%. 100%.
Go to the options menu.
Your primary offensive type needs to be run through post. That's it.
I don't
post
disagree.
Charles up and give him the ball. There's my offensive game.
It seems so simple, but yet so hard.
Apparently so.
WKU basketball, we're not far away. We're actually only about a month away from college football, high school football. It's coming. It's coming. I'm ready for it. Of course, you'll be back on the play-by-play deal, won't you, for
yes.
Franklin Simpson?
Yes.
I'll be with Warren East once again, which
reigning
is pretty
state
cool.
Champs, Franklin Simpson. Reigning 4A state champs back-to-back. And rumblings I'm hearing. Good shot at back-to-back-to-back. We'll see.
Are you trying to take a low blow that I called the state runner-up in the softball game? Is that what that was?
No, not at all.
I feel like
not
that was a low blow.
I could have, but I saw that Warren East team knock out my Franklin Simpson team, so there's only so much I can say.
Yeah, there is. That's for sure. We've been talking WKU hoops. Again, we mentioned Katie Gardner earlier in the broadcast, Warren East softballer. She's headed to WKU. When we come back, we're going to look around the NFL. Last week with Greg Pogue, we really looked at the AFC South and what the Tennessee Titans would expect and if Mike Vrabel would get to keep his private parts or not. We'll get into the full NFL when we come back on ESPN.
The Soki Fair is presented each year by the Bowling Green JCs. The fair is their largest fundraiser, and proceeds are used to put on the Bowling Green Christmas Parade, annual fall festival for underprivileged children, a day with Santa that provides Christmas for over 50 needy children in our community, and much, much more. Thank you for your contribution and attendance to this year's fair. For volunteer opportunities, visit JC's Bowling Green, Kentucky on Facebook.
Clean your class
classic car or truck, then join Brewster's Cruisin' for a Cure. This Tuesday, cruising will take place at Brewster's, 5 to 8 p.m., 2712 Scottsville Road. Brewster's Cruisin' for a Cure. Help out the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation and Alzheimer's Foundation, along with benefiting Hospice of Southern Kentucky. Brewster's Cruisin' for a Cure. Tuesday night at Brewster's, 5 to 8 on Scottsville Road. Bring out your classic car or truck and help out this great cause with J.C. Kirby and Son.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
In the forest near the side of the road.
No need for alarm, sir. The forest is where bears live.
But this was no ordinary bear.
No ordinary bear?
Yeah, 1 second I'm having a smoke taking in the view. Next thing I know, I am face to face with Smokey Bear.
Let me guess, Smokey had a tip for you.
He did. He must have seen me toss my cigarette on the ground. He told me never to do that because it only takes one spark to start a wildfire.
He's a smart bear. Did you know that 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans? That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
That's what Smokey said. I had no idea.
That's why Smokey's famous, and you're not.
Good point.
If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference, because 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Thanks for giving me a ride to the doctor. You're a good sister.
No, I'm a great sister. So I didn't know you got preventive screenings.
Better safe than sorry.
I know, but...
Hey, prevention's simple. Flu shot, screenings for heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and Medicare covers many of them.
You always were the practical one.
And the beautiful one.
Stay healthy, stay independent. Talk to your doctor about preventive benefits. For more information, visit Medicare.gov or call 1-800-MEDICARE. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Absolutely. Always looking for Jack Doyle. Absolutely. Always looking for Jack Doyle.
That's the arch nemesis himself, Andrew Luck, and his best friend, Jack Doyle.
Jack Doyle.
I'm happy for you, Andrew Luck, because...
Jack Doyle.
Just because of Jack Doyle, for
Jack
nothing
Doyle.
else. You know, Andrew Luck reads books. What do you think about that, Tyler?
Stanford isn't even an Ivy League. It's a fake.
What a loser. Stanford.
Man.
I actually had a Colts fan upset at me at the end of last season. It was Colts-Titans, Week 17 to make the playoffs. And, of course, it's Andrew Luck. Like, what are you actually going to, yell at him?
Oh, your beard's too thick.
Yeah. So I, obviously, going for the joke, Andrew Luck likes to read books. And some Colts fan was like, hey, my kids like to read books. It's a joke. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend Andrew
That's
Luck.
the type of guy who hasn't read since 5th grade, and the last thing he read was The Cat in the Hat or Green Eggs and Ham. Nothing wrong with that. Great book.
I was about to say, you better not be talking ish.
Great books.
We've been talking Hilltopper basketball. Marc Hsu leaving the program for Depaul. We had some interesting quotations that we found. If you were interested in learning more about them, you'll have to check out the podcast after the show. It'll be on ESPN Radio 1027.com, or follow me or Tyler on Twitter. We'll, of course, retweet it at Garret Browning 5, at Tyler Eaton Radio. 2 R's, 1 T in Garrett. That's pretty confusing for most people.
I've got it down by now, but at first it was very confusing.
Not a lot of people get it right.
Kind of like Curry's last name. Curry McFadden, but it's got the Y thrown in there.
Oh, dude, I think I asked like 5 different times, is it McFadden?
Oh, and if you say McFadden to him, he doesn't like it at all.
I know. I'm glad I figured that out in time. Curry, he'll be back on the program here in the next couple of months once we get into the full swing of WKU Lady Topper basketball. Of course, our good buddy Brett Williams will be doing the same. He's staying busy with the BG Hot Rods MC duties.
Jess celebrated a birthday over the weekend.
Jess Lightfight?
No, Brett.
I thought you said Jess, not
No,
just.
Just, yes.
Just celebrated
Brett just had
it.
his birthday.
Well, happy belated birthday to our guy, Who was I talking about? I just lost
Brett
my
Williams.
train of Brett Williams, voice of the Lady Toppers.
He is my co-jungle racing champion.
You can tell it's a Monday. My mind is all over the place. Katie Gardner headed to WKU instead of UT Martin, the Warren East softball prospect. Marc Hsu to DePaul. And the Reds have announced that their 2018 first-round pick, Jonathan India of the University of Florida, I believe a third baseman, was just promoted to AA. So that's some good news for the Reds, who are hanging around in that NL Central. And very similar to the NL Central in baseball, there is the AFC South in football, plagued with mediocrity. 4 teams that all have a viable chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, in the past it's been because they're all so bad that one of them has to come out of the division. But now they're pretty good. People are hopping on the
They're
Colts
all
bandwagon.
at least average.
Everybody loves the Colts this year. Everybody looking at them.
That's an easy pick.
Right. Them. I mean, the USA today released their record predictions. They've got the Jaguars right there behind the Colts. Technically, both have the same record at 10-6, but they've got the Colts getting the tiebreaker. They got the Jags going to the playoffs. Right behind them, of course, Tennessee. What other record than 9-7? That's all they know how to do. And then the Texans at 6-10. I don't know about that.
That's an interesting pick. We kind of talked about the AFC South last week with Greg Polk, so if you want to check out that podcast, please do. We're going to switch gears around the rest of the divisions in football. We'll stick with the AFC. Let's go AFC West to start things out. That would be Kansas City.
Yes.
That would be the big favorite out of that division.
Well, not according to USA Today.
They do not have the Raiders.
They've got the Chargers going 12-4 and winning the division. Chiefs right behind them at 11-5. They're both playoff teams. I think it's going to be a toss-up as to who actually wins the division. Now that we've learned that Tyreek Hill, whether you agree with it or not, isn't going to have to serve any suspension, at least from the league. He's going to be playing. They've got Mahomes. They've got Kelsey. They've got Andy Reid. He's the most important piece there. They did let a lot of guys on the defensive side walk, but as
when
we
you're
learned
scoring
last year,
50 points
doesn't
a game,
really matter, as we learned last year, at least in the playoffs. But USA Today loves the Chargers. They love them. And Sports Illustrated likes them, too. They got them going 10-6, get in there as the wild card. It's going to be one of those two. I don't think the Raiders are going to be good. I don't think the Broncos are going to be good at all. I know they've got Joe Flacco now, but if I were them, I'm one of those teams throwing my hat in to the tank for Tua discussion.
Man, John Elway, you'd think he'd be able to evaluate quarterback
He's been
talent.
about as bad as possible.
He has not found very good quarterback. I mean, the only one he ever found was Peyton Manning.
Right.
That's not that hard to find.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that
He
was easy.
signed
He
Peyton
walked
Manning.
into Peyton Manning.
It's
Almost
Joe
a Titan.
Flacco's awful.
Almost a Titan.
Almost. If only.
If only.
That would have been the difference maker. Put a quarterback on that team. I could go on and on about what that team would do with a real quarterback.
We'll stay away with the Titans so I won't cry on air. AFC West, so you've got the Chargers or the Chiefs? Who do you think?
I like the Chargers. They were my Super Bowl pick last year, and I may have been a year early. And even last year, they were really darn good.
I got to stick with the Chiefs on that one, but Chargers are a pretty
They're
safe
both going to
pick.
be in the playoffs. They'll both make. Well, the Melvin Gordon thing worries me a bit, but running backs in the NFL today are the most easily
draft one in the
replaceable
4th
position
round
in the league. Yeah,
You're right.
Absolutely. They've got Eckler right there waiting.
Let's see. We'll go AFC East now. That's your home stay with the New England Patriots.
Home state of John Cena.
We'll get to that
West
later.
Newbury, Massachusetts.
New quarterback for the Dolphins, Josh Rosen, the Buffalo Bills. They're the same team. They got Josh Allen.
Yeah, there's going to be one playoff team from that division. It's New England.
I
That's
think,
about all you need to hear.
Yeah, that's all we really need to talk about. If there's one team that actually could make a run to challenge them, who would it be?
It's got to be New York, just because they've got Le'Veon Bell. They brought in some more pieces on defense. The defense is always really good, but at the end of the day, just like Tennessee, they don't have a quarterback. That's another team you look at. If they've got a quarterback, they're legit. You think they're legitimate contenders behind New England, but they don't.
Sam Darnold, he doesn't really have a lot of weapons to use either. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, but who else? I can't.
Ronnie Anderson's, I think, still there. Maybe.
I couldn't name another Jets wide receiver if you asked me to for an hour. AFC North is the only one we got left out of the AFC. That's Pittsburgh. That's the Ravens. That's the Browns. This is probably one of the more interesting divisions in all of football this season. I said last week that the Ravens were my sleeper team. Who do you think's winning this division?
Well, everybody's talking about, Cleveland this, Cleveland that. And then everybody that picks Pittsburgh is, they're saying, oh, this is going to be a bit of a controversial pick, but I'm going with the Steelers. But everybody's picking the Steelers. USA Today picked the Steelers. Sports Illustrated picked the Steelers. Colin Cowherd picked the Steelers. I'm sure Stephen A. Smith picked his Steelers. Everybody and their mom is picking the Steelers. I love Cleveland. I love Baker Mayfield. It's not going to work at first. It's like Houston in the NBA. I don't think it's going to work at first because OBJ and Baker Mayfield aren't a perfect fit. But that defense is so talented. And I think Pittsburgh takes a serious step back. People don't understand how valuable AB and Le'Veon Bell are.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the Steelers falling back. I just don't see them as a playoff team this year.
I know who you're picking.
I like the Ravens. I think people sleep on them. I know Lamar. He had a tumultuous exit from the playoffs, which is really what's sitting in the back of everyone's mind. That, man, that was an ugly playoff game that he played in. Let's remember this guy was a rookie. He didn't really get to start the first couple of games of the season. I watched Joe Flacco beat the Titans in Nissan by like 20.
That was terrible. That was the low point.
It took him, he only had half a season to get his offense together. Mind you, basically a totally different offense than what you ran with Joe Flacco. I'm telling you, the Ravens are going to win 10 games this year. They're going to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to, go to the AFC Championship, but I believe in Lamar Jackson.
I'll say this. I think they win more games than Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
There's
I do think the Browns are their biggest competition in that division.
I don't think Mike Tomlin is that good of a coach. That could have been my deleted tweet. There's that right there. I don't think Mike Tomlin is that good of a coach.
That's a topic. We could go for 30 minutes on that one.
Look how much talent they have had and wasted.
That's a whole nother topic we'll save for another day. The NFC, let's go through it. NFC West, that's the Seahawks, that's the Niners, the Cardinals.
Rams.
The Rams.
Everybody's picking the 49ers. And I love Jimmy G,
what the hell?
It's Rams or Seahawks.
Are you serious? I don't get this Jimmy Garoppolo love.
I like him. I don't think he can carry that 49ers team. If they had somebody else's defense, then maybe, but the defense really isn't that good either.
Wasn't Kyle Shanahan a head coach before?
Yep.
Didn't it fail miserably?
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right.
A little bit.
Give
me the Rams. There's not much to say about that. Everybody's overhyping the 49ers, and I don't understand it. I really don't. Yeah. I know healthy Jimmy G, he's the next Tom Brady, whatever. Give me the Rams.
I'll stick with you. I'll go Rams, NFC West as well. Let's go NFC South. That's always an interesting division. Panthers, Falcons. You can forget about the Buccaneers. And the Saints.
Falcons, baby. I told you they're my sleeper. Everybody is picking them, and I don't like that at all. Literally, SI, USA Today, Cowherd picked them. I'm sticking with them. I think the Saints take a bit of a step back. Mark Ingram was really, really important to that team. I know I just talked about how running backs can be replaced, but it's different in terms of the tone that Mark Ingram said. He was the complete opposite of Kamara.
An every down back, is he?
No, and Ingram was. And that's why somebody like Le'Veon Bell, that's why I say Pittsburgh is going to understand how valuable he was. Just like AB, he's an every down receiver. He can do everything. Mark Ingram could do everything. He's gone. I think they take a bit of a step back. Drew Brees can't do what he did last year. Michael Thomas, there's no way that he doesn't regress at least a little bit. And the Falcons are so complete. I like the Falcons.
I'm going Saints.
Go ahead. I mean, they'll make the playoffs.
I think their defense is still strong enough where the loss of Mark Ingram, it will affect their offensive capabilities, but they still have such a good defense. They can force so many turnovers, and when you have a quarterback like Drew Brees, if you give him the turnover margin plus in his advantage, you're probably going to be in good situations. So I'm picking the Saints for their defense. We'll go NFC North. We only got a minute and a half. Packers, Bears.
Vikings.
Vikings?
Got him. Give me that. Kirk Cousins, baby.
I'm going Bears again.
Give me Kirk Cousins.
Bears are going to get a kicker this year.
Go Vikings.
That's the kicker for the Bears.
Gosh, they're not going to get a kicker. They're not. They'll be at the 20-yard line, have to go for it every time.
NFC East is the only one we haven't hit yet, and I can't remember any of those teams off the top of my head.
Philly's the favorite.
Oh, okay. That's right. Dallas, Philly,
Giants. For some reason, I like Dallas. I don't know why, and I hate it. I hate it.
All right.
But give me Dallas.
I'll pick the Eagles, and I'll give you a sleeper. The Redskins.
That's terrible. Brett would love it, but even Brett would tell you that's terrible. They are awful.
I'm telling you, they're going to win more games than the Giants.
They should. That Giants, if they put Daniel Jones in for 5 games, that's an automatic 5 losses.
And if they win more games than the Cowboys, I might become a Redskins fan.
You might have to.
Just because I hate the Cowboys that much. America's team? No. I'm sorry.
They're like the John Cena of the NFL. He's America's wrestler. Cowboys, America's team, but everybody hates him. Everybody hates John Cena. Everybody hates Dallas. But hustle, loyalty, and respect. Never give up. The Dallas Cowboys are winning the East.
You want to hit that HLR again? You kind of stumbled over it.
Hustle, loyalty, and respect.